My last night shift at the old B&T Tower, it always started with the 10th floor partner's office. Mr. Henderson's, specifically. Every night I'd lock it, and every morning I'd find it just barely cracked open. This was 2 years ago, late fall. Security for the downtown offices. Building was mostly empty after 9 p.m., just me. I'd do my rounds, check the locks. Simple job, honestly. The first time I just thought I'd forgotten. It was a Tuesday, maybe 1 a.m. I scanned Mr. Henderson's door, saw the green light on the lock, walked past. But at 4 a.m. it was ajar. Just an inch. I closed it, locked it again. The next night, same thing. I double-checked that lock, physically pushed the handle. Made sure it clicked. 3 hours later, there it was. Open a sliver again. That felt a little weird. I checked camera logs for the floor. Nothing, no motion. It kept happening, for weeks. Always Henderson's office. I started putting blue painter's tape across the crack. From the door to the frame. The next morning the tape would be broken, lying on the carpet inside. The door still cracked. I started trying different things, jammed a business card in the crack, found it on the floor, put a stack of quarters against the door frame, knowing they'd fall. They did. Every single time. Nobody was ever caught on camera. Then one night I went into Henderson's office. Checked it. Nothing seemed out of place. But a small framed family photo on his desk was face down. I turned it up, locked the door. The next morning the door was open. And that photo? Face down again. That's when my arms prickled. You have to understand, cleaning only did lower floors. Nobody else was ever up there. I was the only person with access. I told my supervisor, but he just laughed it off. Said it was a draft or settling building. But I knew better. The next few nights I felt it. Like I wasn't alone on the 8th floor. A faint shuffle down the hall. One night I was on the 9th floor doing my routine checks. I heard a muffled thump from below. From the 8th, I froze, waited, nothing else. Took the stairs down slowly, heart already thumping against my ribs. I stepped onto the 8th floor, dead silent. Henderson's office door was closed, locked. For a second, relief washed over me. Then, from inside his office, I heard it. A quiet, soft scratch. Just once. So I'm standing there, rooted. My flashlight beam shaking on the door. And then, I swear, I hear a faint, ragged breath from behind the wood. Not human. Too deep. Too slow. I can't move. My hands are clammy, clinging to the flashlight. I thought about the camera logs. Nothing ever showed. It wasn't just the door opening. It was whatever was doing it. And it knew how to avoid cameras. I realized it wasn't trying to scare me. It was letting me know. And it was waiting. I didn't run. I couldn't. I backed away slowly. One step then another, kept my light on the door. It made no other sound. Reached the stairwell. Didn't look back. Went down 2 steps at a time until I was outside. I called my supervisor from the parking lot. Told him I was done. Never went back in that building. Not even for my last paycheck. Just let it go. It felt like the biggest relief, to just be out. But sometimes, even now, when I'm walking past an empty office building late at night, I just wonder, what was in there? And did it ever figure out how to open the door wider? I took the night shift at the Elmwood Place Care Home, Unit B. It was okay, usually pretty quiet, until Mrs. Albright got moved into room 207. She was an older woman, couldn't move much on her own. But her eyes were always open. She just lay there, completely still day and night. She never asked for anything, never spoke. But every single time I walked past room 207, I swear her eyes would follow me. Right down the long hallway, without her head moving at all. Looking back, that was the first thing that should have tipped me off. I'd pass, feel the stare, and then I'd glance back, quick. Her head would still be facing straight up at the ceiling. But her eyes, they were locked onto my back. It was unnerving. You get used to residents sleeping, or maybe mumbling a little. But Mrs. Albright was just still, too still. And I never, not once, saw her blink. Not even a flicker. Just wide open, staring. This was maybe a week in. I was doing my rounds around 2 a.m. I saw her, Mrs. Albright, sitting in a chair in the common room, facing the wall. Still. But she was supposed to be in 207 in bed. I froze. I knew I'd just checked her room minutes before. I went to 207. The bed was empty, clean. But as I stood there, I heard a faint shuffle from the common room. I went back. She was gone. Her bed in 207 was made again, like she'd never left. After that, I started feeling it everywhere, like I was being watched from behind the doors. I'd rush my checks, just wanting to get off the floor. I tried to talk to the morning shift supervisor, Danielle, but she just said Mrs. Albright was a quiet one. The next night it escalated. It was just after 3 a.m. I was in the nurse's station logging meds, and this sound started. A soft, rhythmic scraping, coming from the end of the hall near room 207. Like something dragging slowly across the linoleum. It kept going, not loud, but persistent. I knew I had to check. I grabbed my flashlight, walked down the hall. The sound got clearer near 207. I pushed the door open, just a crack. The room was dark, but the scraping was definitely coming from inside. I peeked in. Mrs. Albright's bed was empty. No one there. The scraping stopped. My breath caught in my throat. I pulled the door open fully. The room was cold. Empty. But the smell was dusty, like old leaves. And I hear it again. The scraping. But it's not from inside the room anymore. It's behind me. I'm standing there, rooted to the spot, and I slowly turn. And Mrs. Albright is there, right behind me, inches away. Her eyes, unblinking. So close. I couldn't move. My hand flew to my mouth, but no sound came out. Her face was paper thin, drawn tight, and the smell was overwhelming now, like something that had been buried. Her unblinking stare was so intense, I felt like she was looking through me. Then she moved. Just a tiny, almost imperceptible tilt of her head. And that was it. I broke. I shoved past her, stumbled, and ran, full sprint down the hall towards the main exit. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. I hit the main entrance doors, fumbling with my keys. My hands were shaking so bad. I could hear a soft dragging sound behind me, getting closer. I knew I couldn't just get out of sight. I had to get out of the building right then. The lock clicked. I burst out into the cold night air, slammed the door shut, didn't even look back. Jumped in my old Corolla, fired it up. The engine roared to life. I pulled out of the parking lot onto Route 9. Just kept driving. I drove for what felt like hours, just heading east. The sun was starting to come up over the trees. I finally pulled into a rest stop, hands still shaking. But the terror was starting to recede. I was safe. I was out. The next day my phone rang. It was Danielle. She asked why I'd left without finishing my shift. Then she said they found Mrs. Albright that morning, not in her room. They found her in the laundry room utility closet, still and watching. I worked the graveyard shift at a 7-Eleven on Route 9. It was usually dead quiet from like 2 a.m. until the morning rush. But there was one regular. Every single night, around 3:17 a.m. Always the same guy. He'd walk in, grab the same Maxwell House dark roast from the coffee aisle, and come to the counter. His eyes never met mine. Not once. He'd just put the coffee and the exact change down. I mean, for maybe 6 months, this was the routine. Flat. Predictable. Looking back, I should have just left it alone. One Tuesday I tried to break it, just a simple, "Good morning, anything else for you?" He froze, mid-motion, hand hovering over the counter with the coins. It was just for a second. Then he slowly completed the transaction. Never looked up. But that stillness, it felt wrong, like a pause in a recording. After that, I started watching him closer. When he came in. In the glass of the coffee display, his reflection was always a little off. His body would be facing the counter, but his reflection would be angled slightly away, like he was looking into the store. I just chalked it up to the cheap security glass. Distortions. Then one night I was bored, checking the security feed history. Just looking for a good laugh, maybe someone tripping. I pulled up the 3:17 a.m. slot from 2 nights before. There he was, buying his coffee. But then, about 10 minutes after, he left the counter, he reappeared. On camera 3, down by the snacks aisle. Standing still, facing away from the camera. For like 30 minutes, just standing there. Then he walked out. The timestamp was wrong, I thought. Glitchy system. It happens. The next night I felt a knot in my stomach. Honestly. 3:17 a.m. on the dot, the door chime went off. He walked in. Same routine. Coffee, money on the counter. But he didn't leave this time. He slowly turned his head. Not to me. His gaze drifted past my right shoulder, right to the staff door, to the break room behind me. He just held it there. And then a smile. Slow. Unnatural. Spread across his face. No sound. He finally turned, walked out, and the door chime faded. I stood there for a long time, just staring at that back room door. The next night I almost called out sick. But I needed the hours. I kept checking the clock. 3:15. 3:16, 3:17 a.m. Nothing. The store was silent, no chime, no footsteps, just the hum of the refrigerators. I pulled up the backroom camera feeding the monitor under the counter. And he was in there, standing perfectly still, facing the door, my door. He must have slipped in before my shift. Before I even got there, he was inside the whole time. My hands were shaking. I tried to call my manager. Deadline. My cell phone was on the charger in the break room, right through that door, the small window on the break room door. I watched him. He slowly turned his head. To the camera. He was looking right at me, through the monitor, through that little lens. And he smiled. The same slow, silent smile. Then I heard it. A soft creak. The break room door handle was turning. I'm frozen. My breath is stuck in my throat. The door started to open, just an inch. Then more. Under the counter, my hand closed on the heavy baseball bat we kept there. It was for, like, emergencies. This was an emergency. I took a deep breath, ran, burst past the opening door, straight for the back exit. I just heard a slow, shuffling step behind me, just one. I fumbled with the deadbolt. My fingers were slick with sweat. The lock clicked. I threw the door open, ran out into the alley, never looked back. I just got in my Civic and peeled out of there onto Route 9. I drove for hours. I never went back to that store. Now I work day shifts. But sometimes when I'm driving, it'll be 3:17 a.m. I'll glance in the rearview mirror. and I swear I see him. Just a flash. In the passenger seat. Smiling. This was maybe 2 years ago, right when things were all locked down. I picked up a night gig doing data entry for some insurance company out of Phoenix. Totally remote. My shift started at 11 p.m., went until 7 a.m. Usually just me in the system, nobody else online. But then, about a month in, I noticed something off. I'd pull up a new file to work on. Empty. I'd open it, make my changes, save it. But sometimes when I'd go to close it, the last modified date would show like an hour before. I even accessed the file. Like, I'm logging in at 11 p.m. The file says it was modified at 10 p.m. Impossible. I figured it was a system glitch. Server time zone, maybe. I even called IT once. But the guy just mumbled about cached data and VPN weirdness. He closed the ticket. But it kept happening. Not every file, just enough to be noticeable. It wasn't random either. Always before. I touched it. Then it escalated. I'd sometimes see files I hadn't opened at all, suddenly showing a last modified time from an hour or two earlier. Not just my files, other files in the shared drive. It was like someone else was working alongside me, but they weren't showing up on the active user list. My apartment was small, 1 bedroom, windows faced the courtyard. You get used to the quiet at night. But after a few weeks of this file weirdness, I started feeling not alone. Like a presence in the room with me. You know? Just a feeling in the back of your neck. One night, I was deep in a spreadsheet. It was maybe 3 a.m., pitch black outside. And I heard it, a small dry tapping sound. Not from my keyboard. It sounded like it was coming from the wall behind my desk, almost like fingernails, very light, on plaster. I froze, held my breath, waited, nothing. Told myself it was the pipes. Old building, you know? After a minute, I went back to work. Then, maybe 10 minutes later, it started again. Same soft tapping. But this time it was closer. From the hallway outside my bedroom door. My heart started racing. That's when I finally got up. Walked over to the door. Just stood there. The tapping stopped. I peered through the crack. Nothing. Just the dark hallway. But I had this absolute certainty that something was there. Just on the other side. I slowly pushed the door open. No one. Nothing. I walked out, looked down the hall, my reflection from the full-length mirror on the closet door at the end of the hall. But as I watched, my reflection shifted slightly, just for a second, like it was moving on its own. It wasn't quite synchronized. I blinked. It was normal again. Just me. I shook my head, told myself I was tired. Too much screen time. But the image of it, that slight independent shift, it stuck with me. Like my reflection wasn't quite my own for a split second. I backed into my room and locked the door. I got back to my desk. My hands were shaking. I couldn't focus on the files. Then I heard a sound, a very soft scratching. Not tapping. Scratching. Coming from under my bed. My bed was maybe 3 feet from the desk. I froze again. I didn't want to look. I couldn't. This was not pipes. This was not imagination. I knew something was there. My breath hitched. I just sat at my desk, staring at the screen, but I wasn't seeing anything. My heart was just pounding in my ears. Then my cursor started moving on its own. On the screen. It went to a new folder. Created a file. And in that file, plain text. My name, my full name, then my address. It was typing my details onto the screen, like it was taunting me. I pulled my hand back from the mouse like it was hot. I jumped out of my chair, backed against the wall. And I realized something. It wasn't just in the apartment. It was connected to the system, to the files, to me. It was using my job, my connection, to find me. And it was here, in this room, right now. I needed out. I bolted for the door, my hand on the knob, but it wouldn't turn. It was locked, and I distinctly remember unlocking it after the mirror incident. I pulled, twisted. It was jammed. And then I heard it, a soft, wet breathing sound. From right behind me. I'm standing there, my back to the door. I can feel the breath on my neck now. It's cold. I can smell something metallic, like old pennies. My whole body is frozen. I can't move. I can't even scream. And I absolutely know, that it's right there, right behind me. Then a thought flashed. The Wi-Fi. It was connected through the Wi-Fi. I needed to cut the connection. My router was in the living room. I just had to get to it. One chance, I braced myself and I spun around, pushing off the door, aiming for the living room. I burst into the living room, hit the power button on the router. Lights went dead. Silence. The apartment was completely dark now. I stood there, panting, in the middle of the room. Nothing, no sound, no breathing. Just the absolute silence of a dead network. I waited for what felt like an hour, just holding my breath. Nothing else happened. I called out of work, packed a bag, and stayed with a friend for a few days. I got a new apartment a month later. Never went back to that job. Never again worked remote night shifts. But sometimes, even now, I check the last modified date on my files. And I still occasionally find one that's a few minutes off. Not hours, just minutes. But it's there, always. It started with a paper airplane. Always the same desk. Room 27 at Northwood High School. I was on night janitor duty, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. This was maybe 2.5 years ago, late fall. Mostly just wiping down surfaces, emptying trash. The place was dead quiet, just me and the hum of the HVAC. First time I saw it on the third desk back, fourth row, perfectly folded, like an old school dart. No big deal. Kids forget stuff or mess around, right? I picked it up, creased the same way every time, threw it in the recycling bin, emptied that into the big dumpster outside. Didn't think twice about it. Just another Tuesday night. Next night, I hit room 27 again. There it was. Same desk, same spot. Exactly the same fold. I mean, it was odd, sure. Maybe a kid snuck back in? But no doors were ever propped. I took it, unfolded it all the way. Looked at the blank paper, refolded it myself, put it in my locker in the janitor's closet. Figured that was that. Locked the locker. Checked all the external doors and windows again. Everything was secured. The next night, my locker was still locked tight, but the paper airplane was back on desk 27. It wasn't just back, it was out of my locker, in the same spot, same perfect fold. I started feeling cold, a chill that went past my skin. That night, I started hearing things. Soft scratching sounds. Like fingernails dragging across the floor maybe. In the empty hallway outside room 27. No one else was ever there. Just the sounds. I took the airplane home that Friday. Locked it in my metal toolbox in the garage. Figured the school was the problem. I even told my wife I just felt run down. Didn't tell her why. Saturday morning, I went to make coffee. My keys were on the kitchen counter, and there, on top of them, was the paper airplane. Still perfectly folded. It hadn't just gotten out. It had followed me. I drove straight back to Northwood. Left the airplane on the main office desk. Just dropped it and ran. My shift wasn't for 2 more days, But the next night, I just had to go back. I went straight to room 27, and I'm standing there in the dark classroom, flashlight off. And I hear it, a faint tap, tap, tap coming from desk 27. And it's not the airplane. It's too soft, too deliberate, like small hard nails. My breath hitched. I couldn't move. My flashlight was too heavy to lift. The tapping stops. And I hear something else. A whisper right beside my ear. Not words, just a dry, papery rustle, like something unfolding. Then I remember. The paper was blank. Every time. It was the only thing I'd never changed. It wanted something written on it. I spun around, grabbing a permanent marker from my cart. I wrote goodbye on the airplane, threw it in the open window. I never saw it again. I never went back to Northwood either. Got a new job at a grocery store, day shift. Much better. But sometimes, when I'm folding laundry, I find myself making those exact same creases. That perfect, sharp, dart-like fold. Without even thinking about it.